Something bad is happening in the education sector, and it's not about CBC, which is an animal I have never been able to understand. It's not about the mistreatment of teachers in terms of service, in terms of poor pay. It's not about the many bad things that are going on in the education sector. I want to zero in on overcrowding in our schools. In the name of 100% transition, we have spoiled our schools, packed our children like potatoes in a sack of potatoes. When then a school faces the sort of problems schools are facing in Western Kenya, problems that would have been managed or mitigated easily end up being catastrophic. What would perhaps have been a manageable waterborne disease moves into a killer that takes away lives of children who are working on their future. My heart goes out to the families who lost their loved ones in Mukumu Girls. We send our condolences to them. We wish speedy recovery to those from St. Peter's, in the same region, and from Mukumu Girls, who are still recovering. My beef today is simple. Who are we trying to please by the so-called 100% transition? Is it really us? We are trying to please a third party. We want somebody somewhere in some part of the world to say Kenya is doing great. The president of the country, Uhuru Kenyatta, is going in records because in Kenya there's 100% transition. But at what cost? Why are we also trying to fool ourselves? Is it feasible that all our children can go to high school or go to universities? Even if you managed to take them through secondary school, how many of them go to universities or colleges? Because this is a pyramid. Some people drop out and they are not useless citizens. We are trying to tell our children that you must get an A to go to university, otherwise you are a fool. That all children must go to high school, other than they are fools. That's not true. We can find a way of processing our education in such a way those who do not manage for whatever reason to go to high school can still find pathways, can still find useful things to do, useful training, useful engagement, apprenticeship, by simply thinking and not trying to please some foreigners. What is the impact of the overcrowding in our schools? And overcrowding is an understatement. Principals are crying out there. A school that could hardly accommodate 400 children. When this nonsense of 100% started, they were given an extra stream. They moved to 450. Just when they were figuring out how to deal with that, the following year they were given 2 extra streams, taking now to 550. And that has gone and on until being a principal of a school is a nightmare today. Anybody from government can visit schools. These are not schools. There are hardly any schools in this country that still have dining rooms. All eating places, all dining halls have been converted into dormitories. Schools in this country have converted libraries into dormitories. to give children where to sleep. And even then, the overcrowding in those dormitories. We are just lucky no outbreak has swept our children out of this world. There are pathetic scenes in schools because dining halls have been turned into dormitories. Woe unto the students and the cooks when rain comes during mealtime, lunchtime, supper. You can see the misery, the suffering. Children have nowhere to stand to eat. The normal management of young people at that age that a catarese or a matron does is not possible. The usual monitoring, because these are young people at that age, they need to be monitored. People need to know how they have slept, how many have sneaked out of school. Are they sleeping in hygienic places? Are they sneaking substances into the school? Alcohol, drugs. That's no longer possible. Nobody can even pretend they can do it. Schools have given up. School management cannot even pretend to find out what children are doing in their dormitories, leave alone try to make them do the right things. My beef today is with the government and the minister in charge of education. Let's stop this pretense. I asked the president, you had a very good team, Mr. President. When you are working on the charter, the education charter, I saw many serious scholars working with the president, working with the economic team of David Ndii. And I'm convinced the president can use this team to sort of look at this mess, because we cannot afford to accommodate our children in high schools. We must bite the bullet. We must bite the bullet and say we can only accommodate so many children. Alternatively, let government put money into education and construct sufficient classrooms, buy facilities, equipment, employ more teachers. For now, we would need to have an increase of almost 100% in terms of secondary schools in the country, even before this nonsense of CBC kicks up. So I advise government, let's stop pretending. Let's stop trying to show the world, and let's stop fooling ourselves when we do not have capacity. In fact, I give a very simple demonstration. You think you are doing well. So there's a school with a class of 30 to 40 students. In this school, 5 children from that class do very well in their education, and they become entrepreneurs in future. Some are professional lawyers, doctors, and they open their clinics. Some are researchers. They get grants and do research. Some start businesses. Some become manufacturers, inventors. And they end up employing 300, 500 Kenyans. Flip over now. That class of 40 that they could have produced 10 entrepreneurs, 10 employers in the future, 10 professionals employing other young people. That class of 40 is now a class of 70. And when they leave school, at the end of the day, instead of going to relax in a relaxing environment within the dormitories and playing in the fields, they are going to jammed environment, crowded dormitories, bad food, crowded classrooms. These 5 or 10 future employers end up leaving those schools, leaving that class, leaving that school with half-baked education. Because a class of 40 has become a class of 90 or 80. So there's no education going on. There's no learning going on. Now that student who will have become an employee in that class is wasted. Even the teacher can't teach. So are you driving reverse or you are driving forward? That's why I'm calling this foolish. You better have 40 children in a class who will do well, who will create employment, so that even the 20 students or pupils who didn't go to high school can be employed in one of these places where these guys can be working. Now you spoil all of them. Those who would have stayed home and perhaps found life in another way, build careers in another way, gotten employed by these others, they are wasted, just as the bright ones are also wasted. So what is the country doing to itself? We are killing our future. And my beef today, therefore, is with the government for deceiving itself, for lying to itself, and for lying to the world, allowing the world to push it in the wrong direction, for lying to its citizens that you are improving education in the country, when in the fact you are destroying everything. While at it, and this I will deal with in my coming edition of my beefs, the management of schools. The situation is made worse by the sort of management structures we have put in schools in the 21st century. I wrote about this many years ago in a book which I submitted to KIE, now KICD, for approval. They told me to remove that passage from the book, in which I was arguing, since principals are rogue, school principals, they want to be like gods, kings. One man destroys a school when all others are just watching, which is the problem with this country, the culture of fear and subserviency. Well-educated Kenyans, 40, 50 of them, watch as one individual with the same education, if not worse than some of them, destroy a school, and they're just watching. I recommended that we have a collegial kind of arrangement in the management of our schools. I recommended that teachers go around. When you are on duty that week, you are the deputy of the school. And a teacher becomes the principal, one teacher every month. The class on the teacher, the school, what you call teacher on duty every week. For that week, you are the deputy. And then many other decisions of what to buy, of what to purchase, of what to tender is made in a staff room, so that the principal, who is principal only for a month on a rotational basis, is just first among equals. All these shenanigans, costly education because principals want to become rich, all this will disappear. We will manage our schools well. But now we have to let our principal let children die because of contaminated water. There are schools in this country where children are, when they come home, girls have scabies. The skin, you look at a girl, they say there's no water in the school. And the principal is driving a big vehicle. We can end these shenanigans by simply doing what, if a country like Switzerland can do it, rotational presidents. What is wrong with teachers rotating to become principal? Every month, one teacher. Every week, one deputy. And the main decisions are made in the staff room. I must end it there, but by telling government, this is a ticking time bomb. The sort of things that are going on in those crowded schools, society will pay for it. In the years to come, unless we do something about these crowded schools, we will pay for it because we're going to be the victims. When your child today goes to high school, when they come back still standing upright, you are a lucky parent. And such a parents are few. Because a majority of our children are completely destroyed in those overcrowded schools. I don't support boarding schools. But so long as I do not have the power to end boarding schools, so long as the boarding school is still here with us, we must be proactive. And as people, check on government and tell government, please, don't try to lie to yourself and to the world. Don't try to fool anybody that you can have 100% transition in a country like this that hardly allocates sufficient resources to education. That is not possible.